Scalpel. One of the masked men passes her the requested tool. She takes it, pressing down against the man's intestine. He does not move. Her hand does not tremble. Dr. Kale. I am not following strict sterile protocol, in part because infection is not a risk. The subject's immune system has been supplemented. Symbogenesis eggs were introduced to the subject's system 6 days ago, fed into his body along with the nutrient paste we have been using to preserve basic biological functions. The surface of the intestine splits, spilling a thin film of brownish liquid over the surrounding organs. Dr. Kale ignores it as she sets the scalpel aside and thrusts her hand into the man's body. He still does not move as she digs through his small intestine. When she finally retracts her hand, she's clutching something. She pulls down her mask with her free hand and directs a beatific smile toward the camera. Dr. Kale. I am pleased to report that we have multiple fully formed proglottids present in the subject's body, as well as some partial strobila. She holds out her hand. The camera zooms in on the white specks writhing against her gloved fingers. Dr. Kale. Symbogenesis is capable of maturing when cultured inside a living human host. Ladies and gentlemen, at long last, it's alive. The film ends there. There are no notes in Dr. Kale's progress reports relating to the eventual fate or original identity of the first human subject used to culture Symbogenesis. The medical power of attorney referenced in the recording has never come to light. End report. June 23rd, 2021. Timestamp 1317. This is not the first thing I remember. This is the first thing that I was told to remember. This is the memory that has been created for me by the hands and eyes and words of others. The first thing I remember has no need for hands, or eyes, or words. It has no need for others. It only needs the dark and the warm and the distant, constant sound of drums. The first thing I remember is paradise. This is not the first thing I remember. But this is the first thing you will need to know. Sally Mitchell was dying. She was up against an army that had begun with paramedics, moved on to doctors, and finally to complicated life support machines that performed their function with passionless efficiency. But none of that seemed to make any difference. She had always been determined, and now she was determined to die. Silently, and despite everyone's best efforts, she was slipping further and further away. It was not a swift process. Every cell in her body, damaged and undamaged alike, fought to retain cohesion. They struggled to pull in oxygen and force out the toxins that continued to build in her tissues and bloodstream. Her kidney function had been severely impaired in the accident, and waste chemicals had ceased to be automatically eliminated. She no longer responded in any meaningful way to external stimuli. Once she was removed from the machines that labored to keep her body functional, her life would come to an end in very short order. Sally Mitchell existed in the state of living death, sustained by technology, but slipping away all the same. Her hospital room was crowded, unusually so for a woman standing in death's doorway. But her doctor had hoped that by bringing her family to see her, he could better plead his case for taking her off life support. The damage from the accident had been too great. Tests had shown that Sally herself, the thinking, acting girl they remembered, was gone. Clinical brain death was the term he used, over and over again, trying to make them understand. Sally was gone. Sally was not coming back. And if they kept her on artificial life support for much longer, more of her organs would begin to shut down until there was nothing left. If her family approved the procedures to harvest her organs now, her death